Working from home doesn't need to mean sitting at a computer all day. Johanna decided to start her own yoga classes from her own home. We meet her today and she talks to KindredHQ about how she's leading a much more positive life, doing the stuff that she loves.
My name's Johanna, and we're in my home now, which is where I work as a yoga teacher for the most part. I teach my classes upstairs in our yoga loft, I guess we can call it. And yeah, I've been doing that for about 2 years now. It's great fun. And then I do a few classes outside in church halls and one job at Sky, so a bit of corporate work as well. So it's very good. Yeah. Not really, no. It's completely not for me. I was even told as a child, my parents said I would never do anything where I had to sit still, because I can't. It's not really possible. So before I was a yoga teacher, I was working as a dancer. Always been active. So like I say, as a child, it's very active. My mum couldn't get me to sit still. In school, they couldn't get me to sit still. And that's actually why they put me into dance classes, because they thought it would settle me in school a little bit, because I couldn't sit still. I wasn't ever really like naughty or anything like that. I just couldn't sit still. So that's why I did the dancing. And then from that, just became a yoga teacher when I got a little too old for the dancing, I guess, and wanted to be settled. So, yeah. Well, it's always nice for starters just working for yourself. You have your own rules. You don't have to follow anybody else's. And I like having it in my own space, and of course there's always a cost issue as well, because you're paying a rent when you're renting a place or hiring out a hall or something like that, so you always have to put that into account. So we had the lovely space at home. We thought, let's make it the yoga studio, see if it works, see if people are happy to come to somebody's home, because that's not really where you would expect to go for a yoga class. But it's worked really well and people like it. And actually, after I had my baby, I tried to rent out another place, and people weren't as into it. I ended up moving it back to the home once I knew my baby was sleeping in the evening, and she would be quiet while I was teaching, or sleeping while I was teaching. So that's actually, it's just nicer. This is true. So adapting, yeah. So adapting my classes to having a baby in the house. Luckily, I have a baby that does actually sleep quite well in the evenings. So some students are surprised when, on the rare occasion that we do hear her, if she has a little cry in her sleep, they go, "Oh, what's that sound?" They don't even know there's been a baby in the house. And some students know there's a baby in the house, and they just say, "We've never heard her. I can't believe it." So I'm lucky in that respect that I have a baby that goes to bed at 7 and that's it. Lately though, she has been a bit ill and she's been waking up a bit more. So for example, on Monday I had a pregnancy class and she did a bit of crying during the class, but I just said, well, that's your future, girls. You're gonna have a baby that cries every once in a while. I'm really sorry. And my husband's always home in time, so he takes her if she does cry, and it just hasn't really been a big issue, which is really lovely to have that sort of situation where even with a baby in the house, you can still have your clients there. And yeah. To begin with, again, talking about before I had a family, so before having a baby, it was quite hard finding people in the area to meet up with and other people to talk to. So I did end up sort of being at home a lot more, apart from when I did see my students. But then again, as the company has grown, of course, I meet more and more people who are coming to my classes. So around this area, around Northfields, I see my students all the time. I run into students in the park, I run into them in the cafes, at Tesco's, the shops, and we always have a nice chat. Like I say, you kind of become friendly with them. So you do have a nice chat, see how they're doing, and even students who aren't able to come anymore, I run into sometimes, and it's always just as lovely to run into them. Since becoming a mum, it actually has been easier meeting people, because I think, as with any situation, when you become a mum, meet other mums. So actually I do have a really quite big base of friends and people I know and run into, or people come over for a cup of tea, or we go to the cafe. There's a local cafe that all the mums go to, so you tend to go there in the play group. So actually it's again not an issue. I meet people everywhere. I feel like I know everybody. Sometimes is the feeling. So yeah. Before I was a yoga teacher, I was a dancer. And the way it started was, I said before, I couldn't sit still at school, so my parents sent me to dance classes. And it started off with one dance class a week. Didn't really actually like it very much. I did a jazz dance class. And then I decided that I wanted to do ballet instead. So I did ballet. And then from there, it just sort of escalated. And I was doing 2 classes a week, and then I was doing 3. And eventually I was doing 6 classes a week. I was teaching ballet classes. So that's sort of how it all started in the very early days. And I decided that I wanted to be a dancer, professional dancer, which my parents were delighted, not really, but you know, they wanted me to go to university, but they knew they couldn't stop me because that's just the way I am. When I set my mind to something, I'm going to do it. And I didn't mention that before, I'm actually Swedish to begin with, and I moved to the US when I was 18 months, so that's hence the American accent. Everybody thinks I'm American or Canadian. So I did that in the US, and by the time I was a teenager, finished with my high school education, I really wanted to do the dance thing, but also it was very important for me to get back to my roots. So I applied for performing arts school in Sweden, and I moved to Sweden, went to performing arts school there for 3 years. And then after that, after doing my training, I moved back to the US, lived in New York for a while, did odd jobs here and there, loads of different things, and then got a really big show in Vegas. So I auditioned in New York, so moved to Vegas for a year and did one of the shows on the Strip with the massive headdresses and all that. Very different to now, you know, fake eyelashes and skimpy costumes and all that kind of stuff. And from there, you kind of make the contacts, as you always do once you get work. And I got a job in Paris. And in the meanwhile, I had met a man who's now my husband. And I moved to Paris for 7 months and did a show in Paris on the Champs-Élysées. And then we decided we wanted to be together, and we were doing this long distance thing. So I came to the UK to be with him, looked for work, and actually turned out to be quite a difficult period of my life because it was just impossible to get work here as a dancer, especially being the height I am, because I'm 5'11". This is why I did shows in Vegas and Paris. That's where they like the tall girls. So I was here for ages, just couldn't find work, couldn't get anything, and it was really depressing. And I was one of those people who just sat in my house going, what do I do with my life? I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I was only, you know, kind of late 20s, like, it's too early for this to be happening to me. So me and my husband were going to an amazing yoga class every night, and eventually he said, why don't you just teach yoga? You want to do something different anyway. You want to be here, and you'd be really good at it, all that kind of stuff. And I eventually finally got the nerve up to speak to the teacher, because she's an amazing teacher, and she gave me the name of a school in India that she went to for her yoga teacher training. And I thought, well, let's just do it. Let's see how we go. So I went to India for a month and I did this teacher training. It was the most incredible experience of my whole life. And from there, came back here. We were about to get married. So that had all happened in the meantime, and getting engaged and all that kind of nice stuff. And we'd bought this house. We were doing it up. It was a complete mess, so it needed doing up, and we said, well, I'll do the teacher training, we'll make a yoga studio upstairs, and we'll just see how it goes. So that was already sort of in the works before I even had done the teacher training. And then so off I went to India and came back home, got married, and then after being married, set up the business, had my website done by my brother who does websites, so all very kind of family oriented. Just took it from there, slowly built up my client base. When I had done that with adult classes, I then went and trained to teach kids yoga. So I now teach kids as well. And then when I got pregnant, I trained also to teach mummy and baby classes. So I do that as well now, which is really, really lovely to do. So I teach a few different things. So the way we sort of help each other out in this area, Northfields or Ealing in general, is, for starters, I'm actually quite good friends with a lot of my neighbours, and it just so happens a lot of my neighbours also work for themselves. So I've gotten in great touch with a neighbour just a few doors down who does the nutritional therapy, who you'll be talking to as well, Emily, and that's sort of how it all started for me, because just as I was starting out, she was starting out a few years ago. So we talked a little bit, we basically, because obviously money is always an issue, we helped each other out in that way too. And we, at Christmas fairs and fairs around the area, like school Christmas fairs and things like that, we got a table together where we could advertise what we do. So it was great because she does the nutritional therapy and I do the yoga. They kind of go hand in hand. And we just talk to people about what we do. Lots of ways we help each other out, actually. It's a really nice place to be. It's very different from the dance world, where there's a little bit more, everybody wants to get ahead, whereas here you get ahead by helping each other. And we all get ahead, and we all have loads of students, so we don't need to fight each other for them, which is nice. There's a big fear in working on your own, because it's that, can I do this? Can I actually get this started all on my own without any help from anybody else? And I found that when I started out, I had loads of really difficult nights sometimes, because I just laid in my bed thinking about it. How am I going to get students? How is anybody going to be interested in me as a teacher? Are they even going to like me? Will they come once and never come again? You have all these thoughts in your head, negative thoughts about yourself. But then you just need to jump in and just get going and just do it, because actually everybody is much more capable than they think of doing things on their own. So it's even just in a yoga class, if you're talking physically in a yoga class, when we're doing a really difficult pose or something, a lot of people will think, I can't do this. And you just say, just take one more breath, you can do it. And most people can, and it's the same thing starting your own. You can, you just have to dare to do it. You have to kind of let go and just dive in and just go for it and see how it goes. And even if it doesn't go well, at least you tried. If you didn't try, you'd be thinking, why didn't I try that? It's just like anything else in life, really. So some of the suggestions I would have, though, going into it, other than just jumping into it, is obviously finding that base of people. There are always people, more people than you think, working on their own, sitting at home, wondering if they can do it. And you're not the only one, you're not alone. So see if you can find other people doing the same thing, and you'll find it's much easier than you think. And once you meet a few people, maybe meeting up with them in the coffee shop or coming home, inviting them home, going to their homes for a cup of tea or whatever, and a chat, and you just can feed off of each other's ideas. And how did they get their website going? What does their card look like? And what should I put on my card? And you can really help each other out. That networking thing is so important, because we work on our own, and we don't have that sort of sitting in an office and you can talk to the person next to you in the cubicle or whatever it is. I don't know, since I've not really done that. But, that sort of thing where you need to find that base of people to talk to. I find that really helpful, just saying, oh, well, should I put that on my website? And even as an example, when I started kids classes, I spoke to the people I know who have children around the age of the children I wanted to teach, and asked about prices. Even like little things like that, you just get the ideas, is really helpful, talking to other people. And if you know people who do websites, talk to them. If you know people who do cards, talk to them. And you might even be able to help yourself out on the way to getting there. And it gets easier. Now I have my client base, and I just go with the flow, and it's lovely. And I can't even believe I was that unsure about it that many years ago. And now I'm doing it, and it's so much fun. So, yeah, it's great. So if you're interested in yoga classes or kids yoga classes, if you've just had a baby or about to have a baby, you're very welcome to contact me. I have a website. It's letsyoga.co.uk, or you can just email at info@letsyoga.co.uk. You can find all the information on there, and hopefully I'll hear from you, maybe. We'll see.